Reeh today. And no, I didn't stutter or hiccup while I'm saying the word. It's not Ray, it's Reeh. And so it's a double part Reeh in there. And it means to see. And we're going to learn a few things about see today. We're going to learn some things about vision, some things about sight, and some things that the Father is trying to reveal to us. You know, we're told not to be led by what we see, but we're told to see. Does that make sense to you? Don't be led by what you see, but I want you to see today. So what's really being said? What's really going on here? Because there's more to it than just a glancing or just a quick reading over of what's going on. We even use this expression sometimes to see as a term of obedience or understanding. You know, how many of you have said, "Can you see what I'm saying?" Okay, do we mean that literally? Can you see what I'm saying? No, I can't see what you're saying. It's sound. I can't see that. So what are we saying when we say that? Can you see what I'm saying? We're implying, do you understand? Do you comprehend what I am saying? So when we approach the scripture like this, there's a few things that are going on that's beyond just see. So ready to take a look at it? We're gonna dive in and see. Who said see? All right, we're gonna take a quick look at it. Deuteronomy 11:26. It starts off. See today that I am setting before you a blessing and a curse. And the Hebrew, Re'eh anochi noten lefnechem hayom bracha ukalala. So Re'eh is the word there to see. What does it mean to see? We're gonna get into that. Commentary from the Chumash, the Gutnick edition by Kol Menachem Press. Pretty neat commentary that I came across on this parsha. They break down each parsha, like the names of the parsha and what's kind of implied and getting in there. So what does it have to say about this? Well, let's take a quick look at it. Re'eh means see, as in the opening verse of our parsha. See, I'm giving you today the blessing and the curse. So what exactly is the Torah demanding and asking us to see God's blessings and curse? Okay, so it kind of sets up with the question. Now, how do we respond to that? What is the Torah really saying to us when it says, I want you to see the blessing and the curse? Because when they go into the land is what God was telling them, right? When you go into the land, you are to set it in place on Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. They weren't there yet. But I want you to see today. See, so they haven't done it yet, but I want you to see today. So how can they see today if they haven't seen it yet? Are you still with me? All right, so let's keep reading. Broadly speaking, a person's observance of the precepts of Judaism could fall into one of three categories. Remember, this is a Jewish commentary, so that's why he says the precepts of Judaism, okay? Not just following Torah, but what does they have to say about it? There's three things. Plain obedience. At this level, a person is willing to observe the mitzvot or commands because he is aware of a higher authority. However, his observance is not inspired by an understanding or appreciation of the Torah. He simply accepts the yoke of heaven. It simply just says, well, Yah exists and he said this, and he just accepts that. Is there more to it than that? Sure. What else does it have to say? Okay, let's look at B. An intellectual appreciation. A higher level is where a person not only observes the precepts of the Torah out of deference to a higher authority, but he also has an intellectual appreciation of the importance of observing the mitzvot, and he understands the rewards that mitzvah observance or keeping the commandments brings. However, even this person has not yet reached perfection, for intellectual conviction alone, you see what it's saying here, just an intellectual conviction alone, just an intellectual knowledge of it alone is not enough. Okay? So what is he saying? While immensely powerful, it still leaves room to explore other avenues, so it does not represent an absolute commitment. See, at this level, we kind of reason with ourselves as well, saying, well, if I don't understand it, I'm not going to do it. But what we understand, we'll do. Now, there's a whole lot you can say with that. Are we truly going to understand everything that Yahweh has given us? No, not really. Even when we think we understand, I can guarantee you, we don't. Okay, so we've got to continue to do that. Now, but there's another one coming, okay? So thus, the highest level of mitzvah observance is C, vision. Vision. This isn't just sight, it's vision. Let's take a look. At this level, one does not merely appreciate the value of keeping the Torah's precepts, one sees it, Re'eh. i.e. the necessity and positive results of observing the mitzvos become as clear and self-evident as seeing a physical object with one's eyes. It's seeing it not just for what it can do for me, not just for the benefit, but it is a necessity and it is self-evident. I can see it before me, and so therefore I do. Okay, now there's one more thing in here. And it is this third level which our Parsha commands and spiritually empowers every Israelite to reach with the words, see, I am giving to you today what? A blessing and a curse. See, I am giving you today the blessing and the curse. I am putting before you today to see the blessing and the curse, to have a vision of the blessing and the curse to what the Father is telling us to walk in and to enter into in our lives. It is important that we set these before us so that we understand what the Father is asking us to do in the days to come. Right? It's a mode of life. It's the way we live. It's not just right here, right now, but it's a plan for living for Him as life continues. Right? So, side thought. Reeh is to see. Roeh in the Scripture is translated as a seer. Now, what would you call in Scripture someone who is a seer? A prophet. Now, most often the word for a prophet is Navi. Okay, like Eliyahu, Navi, Eliyahu the prophet. Navi is the word most often used, but there are occasions where this word Roeh is used as a seer or as a prophet. So what does a prophet supposed to do? He has a vision. He sees beyond what is there. Okay? Matter of fact, what is there, he uses what is not there as proof of what is. All right, now let's take a look at something. Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint, but blessed is he who keeps the law. Notice how he puts this. Where there is no prophetic vision, where there is no vision, and literally, yeah, this does mean like a prophetic vision. Where there is no prophetic vision, what does that mean? Does that mean absolute certain physical sight? No, it goes beyond that, doesn't it? It says where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint. But happy is he who keeps the law. Now let's take a quick look at this. First off, notice that prophetic vision goes hand in hand with keeping Torah. That should be something very important to us. Now we're not going to get into it today in this parsha, but in this parsha, in Deuteronomy chapter 13, you have a test for a false prophet. And it's not that he does signs and wonders. The test for a false prophet is his instruction, what he is teaching. It's not that he could do miracles. So we're talking about this prophetic vision that's in here. It all goes in there, right? Without a prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint, but happy is he who keeps the Torah. That's what we're going to look at, all right? So where there is no prophetic vision, ba'ein hazon, so that's no prophetic vision. The people cast off restraint, and that is Yifra'am. The people cast off restraint, but blessed is he, it's v'shamar Torah ashrehu. Shamar Torah ashrehu. So let's take a look at what these words are. So first off, where there is no prophetic vision is the word ba'ein hazon. Hazon, ba'ein is and there is no. And so hazon, Brown Driver Briggs explains it this way. It is vision, like a vision as an ecstatic state, or a vision as seeing in the night, or an oracle, or a prophecy like divine communication, or a vision as in the title of book of prophecy. This is related to the word hazah. This is the same word, not hazak, it's a different word, but hazah, it's related to this word hazah, same roots in this word, and that means to see or to perceive or to prophesy or to provide something. Now there's other places where we see this word, and it's implied as something that is not seen, but to see. Did I lose you? It's something that is seen, but not seen. So how do we work with that? What do we translate in that? Well, where do we see it? Let's get back to that. In Exodus, in the Parsha Yitro, where Moshe has to perceive and pick out men who will uphold the Torah and that which the instruction that they've been given and that which way they've been taught in, to help with the people and getting on with life and moving on towards the goal and towards the promise. There were those who were supposed to come in, leaders, to set leaders in over who? Tens, 50s, hundreds, thousands, right? So that the Israel as a nation could continue to go forward. But who were these men and how were they chosen? Okay, so let's take a quick look at it. And back in Exodus 18:19, Yitro's talking to Moshe. He says, obey my voice, I'll give you advice, and God be with you. You shall represent the people before God and bring their cases to God. Yitro was not telling Moshe to not do what he was doing. He was to be a representative to Yah and representative for Yah. And in that, he was supposed to teach all the people what God said, to teach him his decrees, his instructions, what he desired, to teach them the Torah. And beyond the teaching of the Torah and their commitment to the Torah, he would be able to discern those who would rise in the assembly, who would uphold it and to help everyone walk in it. Okay? So he says, verse 20, you shall warn them about the statutes and the laws and make them know the way in which they must walk in the way they must do. Verse 21, moreover, look for able men from all the men who fear God, who are trustworthy, who hate a bribe, and place such men over all the people as chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. So this word look for is tehezeh, which is the exact same word, hazah, that we were just talking about. To see, but it's not necessarily just like something physically that you see. It would be more along the lines of to discern prophetically. To look over and to discern those who would be able to do this and to put them in the positions that they can properly walk out to help the community as a whole. So notice, first the instruction in the Torah came, then the discernment of those who would uphold the instruction to help the benefit of the nation. So this is the same word we're looking at to say, to see, to perceive, and to walk in. We're seeing these same things here. When God says to see, what is he telling us to see? Vision. To discern goes along with that. Okay? So again, verse 29:18, where there's no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint. So this word for restraint means to let loose, to let go, to loosen, to cause to refrain or to let loose restraints. So they are loosed themselves, and if they are loosed and not yoked to anything, what are they going to do? Run wild. Go all over the place. So essentially how we can kind of paraphrase this, where there's no boundaries of the word to us, we're going to walk outside of it. Where there's no boundaries or vision that Yahweh has given there, that we're walking in that, if we're not receiving that and walking in that, we're going to walk outside of it because we don't know what he said. And so we cast off restraint, and anything goes because we're not listening to Yahweh, we're listening to our way. Right? So the last part of that, but happy is he, or blessed is he who keeps the law. And that's what it translates as. Because where he says blessed, or blessed is the same word as happy, but asher is the word there. That means happy or blessed. The Torah and vishmar. And that shamar is to keep, to guard, to protect, right? So, but happy or blessed is he who guards and protects the Torah. So are we willing to do that in our hearts and in our lives? What is our prophetic vision? Our prophetic vision is in the framework of the Torah that God has given us. So if someone tries to come in you and starts trying to prophesy to you, and it is outside the boundaries of the framework of what the Torah has said, to try to lead you away from what the Torah has said, what are we to do with that? If you follow that, you're casting off restraint. You're being loosed from what you were supposed to be yoked to, which was Yahweh, and you're going to run off in your own way. But happy is he who keeps the Torah. We even talk about it in the blessings, right? I mean, as we enter into Shabbat, we play blessings over the men, blessings over the ladies, blessings over the children, a blessing for everyone together. But what is part of that blessing that we have for the men that's said in every Shabbat? Psalm 1, right? What does it say? Blessed is the man. It's the same word. Happy is the man. Blessed is the man. Notice, blessed and happy go together. Right? So blessed is the man who does what? Who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scoffers. But his delight is in what? The law of Yahweh. So his delight is in keeping, Asher, he's happy. His blessing is keeping the Torah. His delight is in the law of the Lord, and his law he meditates day and night, and he is like what? A tree that is planted by streams of water, that yields its fruit in its season, its leaf does not wither, and all he does prospers. Again, blessing, right? Contrast, verse 4. The wicked are not so, but are like the chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For Yahweh knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked shall perish. So we even see this as we find out the testimony, what we are supposed to walk according to and speak according to. We're supposed to speak and live according to the promise that Yahweh has given us in our covenant with him. So what are these things? I mean, as we live in these things, we're to learn to continue to have these flow through us, right? Isaiah 8 kind of reconfirms this. Isaiah 8:16 says, bind up the testimony, seal the teaching, or seal the Torah among who? My disciples. If we are a disciple of Yahweh, if we are a disciple of the Most High, then we are supposed to have his Torah written within us. If we say that we are a disciple of the King, we are a disciple of Yahweh, but we do not receive his Torah, are we truly his disciple? See, the stuff we need to ask ourselves, right? Let's continue, verse 17. I will wait for Yahweh, who is hiding his face from the house of Yaakov, and I will hope in him. Behold, I and the children whom Yahweh has given me are for signs and portents in Israel from Yahweh Tzavaot, who dwells in Mount Zion. Verse 19. And when they say to you, inquire of the mediums and the necromancers who chirp and mutter, should not a people inquire of their God? Should they inquire on the dead on behalf of the living? Verse 20, to the teaching and to the testimony, if they will not speak according to this word, it's because they have no dawn, or because there is no light in them. To the Torah and the testimony, if they don't speak according to this, there's no light there. See, here's the thing. People yearn to hear the voice of Yahweh. And when they feel they're not hearing the voice of Yahweh, they will try to seek supernatural ways to fill that void. And just because they're seeking a supernatural way to hear a voice does not mean it is a voice from the Most High. We have to discern the voice, and then that discernment comes with, see, behold, I set before you today life and death, blessing and cursing. You cannot say that this is the path we're supposed to walk in, and this will give you life, but it's the path that Yahweh says is a curse. You have to walk in the way that Yahweh has said, that it was given as his covenant to a blessing for his people. Don't forget that. That Yahweh, when he was speaking these things, he was speaking to a people who were already redeemed. He was speaking to a people that were already his. Don't forget that. Because we tend to say, well, I'm Yahweh's, that's great, so I have every blessing with no consequence for rebellion. And that's not the way it is. We have consequences to every action. Some are good, some we don't like. Some bless us, others don't feel like a blessing. We've got to learn to discern, to walk in his ways that he gives us, right? Malachi even reconfirms this. Malachi 2:7. The lips of a priest should guard knowledge, and people should seek what from him? Torah. People should seek Torah from him because he is a messenger of Yahweh Tzavaot. If someone says they are a messenger of Yahweh or a messenger of God to you, and they are speaking contradictory from the Torah, run. Because what we just read in Isaiah and what we just read in Malachi testifies, not to mention, we haven't talked about it, but go back to Deuteronomy 13, verses 1 through 5, and it says, if someone, even though they have signs and wonders, visions, miracles, dreams, all these things, and these things that they say come to pass, but they try to take you away from what you've already been instructed and given, they're a false prophet. So again, don't follow after the crowd just because we see supernatural things happening. Because even Hasatan can come as an angel of light. Right? So, we are not to be led by what we see. We walk by faith, not by sight, right? But yet we are told to see. So what are we to do? How do these two come together? Well, let's take a look. So we're not led by what we see, but we are to discern the things we see by the things that are not seen. Did I lose you? Like, we're not to see, we're to discern the things that we see by what's not seen. It's kind of like this, okay, that sounds kind of odd, but when you start to really think about it, it makes sense. Okay? Because the things that are here, the things that are here in the earth, everything here is temporary. The things that are eternal and the things that are real are the things that we don't see. Everything here will disappear. Everything here will fade away. Everything here, would go to the fire, wood, hay, stubble, it's all going to burn away. What lasts? What is actual substance and value? But the things that are eternal and the things that Yahweh has given us, right? So what does Scripture say? Romans 1:20. Ever since the creation of the world, his eternal power and divine nature, invisible though they are, have been understood and seen through the things that he has made. Let me paraphrase that. We understand Yahweh, even though he is invisible and we don't see him, we understand him by what we can see, which is finite and which is limited, but that's where we are. That's how we are. We need to learn to discern the things that we do not see and see what is in front of us by the spiritual and by the eternal, not just by the temporal. Okay? 2 Corinthians 4:18 says, we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient or temporary. They'll go away. But the things that are unseen are eternal. And that's what we were just talking about. Okay? So back to Deuteronomy 11. Verse 26 to 28. Verse 26. So see, Reeh, I'm setting before you, lifnechem, today, a blessing and a curse. So this is interesting how he phrases this. Because he says, see, that's Reeh, that is a singular, the way that is written, Reeh is singular. It's to you, as an individual, to you. But then he says, I am setting before you, lifnechem, that's plural. So what he's saying is, see, I'm speaking to you as an individual to see and discern this vision that I have for you as this life that is before you, to see that I am setting before all of you. So see, our relationship with Yahweh as an individual is just as important as our relationship with each other in the kingdom. So yeah, you know, he is my God. But that also means we're to learn to walk with our brothers and sisters here. Just like we talked here recently, you know, which is the greatest commandment? To love the Lord your God with all your soul, with all your heart, and all your strength. And what's the next part? To love your neighbor as yourself. See, so these two, they go together. And so that's what's happening in here. Yahweh is identifying, calling you out as an individual to acknowledge, see, I'm talking to you, buddy. But then he identifies that you are a part of a whole that you cannot remove yourself from. You are included in this as a whole. So what is it here? To see, which is singular, you must see as a personal relationship. You discern and keep, and that in turn builds up the community that you, plural. So the one is leading to the other. It's not one apart from the other. Deuteronomy 11:27. Let's keep going. So we read in the scripture says, the blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today, and the curse if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside of the way I'm commanding you today to go after other gods that you have not known. In the Hebrew, literally the way this reads is the blessing when. It's different, isn't it? There's a big difference between if and when. But that's how it reads. It says that you have the blessing when. Asher is when. The blessing when you obey the commandments of the Lord your God. And the curse, if you do not. Just by the way that's written, it implies that one is where you're going to go. Doesn't it? So this blessing, when you do this. But if you decide to not do this and turn your back on it, there is curse for that. See, this is the way that it's written. And that kind of changes our perspective on it a little bit, doesn't it? Because the expectation is that you do. What about when we fall short? Well, praise Yah. That's why he says we have an advocate. You know, and his grace and his mercy helps meet up the difference. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who turns their back on Yahweh, who puts within themselves, I'm not going to do what God says. I'm not going to keep his commandments. I'm not going to do these things. And that's where Yahweh says, you have the blessing when you do what I say. If you do not. See, notice it's not the blessing if you do it. The expectation is you do it. See? All right, let's keep going. Matthew 25, verses 31 to 46. So when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered, who? All the nations. And he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. Notice he's separating all the people. So these people as individuals are being separated by their nations. That's something to consider. When all the world comes together and are being separated as individuals within their nations, There's only one nation that God says he's redeemed. Who is it? Israel. Which nation are you going to be counted with? Let's keep reading. So before him will be gathered all the nations. He will separate the people one from the other as a shepherd separates sheep from goats. And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right. Notice what he's saying here. Say to those on the right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Verse 35. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger, you welcomed me. I was naked, you clothed me. I was sick, you visited me. I was in prison, you came to me. And the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry or feed you, thirsty and drink? And when did we see the stranger and welcome you, and naked and clothe you? Verse 39. And when did we see you sick or in prison or visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of my brothers, you did it to me. Then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you cursed, to the eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, you gave me no food. I was thirsty, you gave me no drink. Verse 43. I was a stranger, you did not welcome me. Naked, you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, you did not visit me. Then they will answer, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or stranger, naked or sick or in prison, and didn't minister to you? And he will answer them, saying, truly I say to you, you did not do to the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. Now, something to notice what's really happening here. Okay? When he does this, he gathers them together. He gathers all the nations, the sheep on the right, the goats on the left, and to the ones on the right, he says, to come, you who are, what's the word? Blessed of my Father. And then what does he describe after that? The things that they were instructed to do at a very practical, relational level according to his Torah. So come, you who are blessed, who keep my word. And to the left, those who are cursed. The goats, depart from me, you who are cursed, who did not do according to the words of his Torah that he gave as instructions for us. So again, we have the picture in Matthew 25, all the way back to this parsha, when Yahweh is saying, I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose life. Do these things for blessing. Do not do these things for curse. Right? Okay, Revelation 12:17, just to kind of reiterate some of this point. Then the dragon became furious with the woman, went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, which was who? On those who keep the commandments of God and hold on to the testimony of Yeshua, and he stood on the sand of the sea. Revelation 14:12. Here is a call for the endurance of the saints. Who are they? Those who keep the commandments of God and have faith in Yeshua. What are we going to need in these times? Is it just love God? Okay, in one manner of speaking, yes, in another manner of speaking, no. We can say just love God, but what do we mean by that? Again, we're trying to see what we don't see. What we mean by that is keep his commandments. How do we love God? We do what he said. How did God say we love him? We do what he said. Right? Words have power. And we've talked about that many, many times before. I'm not negating the fact that that words have power. Words do have power. But we need to live beyond words. We need to live to a point with a tangible love, with a tangible presence of Yahweh in our life that others can benefit from, to draw them to him. So we need to understand our words have power. Power of life and death is in the tongue, right? Our words have power, but we need to live beyond just saying stuff. We need to live in a manner that shows the light of the Father to those around us. All right? James 1:25. But to the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be what? Blessed in his doing. Verse 26, if anyone thinks he is rebellious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. I said rebellious. I meant religious. I misread that. I must have that on the mind. 27, religion that is pure and undefiled before God is this. What is it? Religion that is pure and undefiled before God is what? To visit the orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. That's a matter of doing, not just speaking, isn't it? It's a matter of living and not being influenced by the ways of the world, isn't it? James 2:17. So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. Essentially, James is saying, prove it. Right? Revelation 22, verse 12. Behold, I am coming soon, bringing my recompense with me to repay each one for what he has done. I am the Alpha Omega, or Aleph Tav, if you prefer, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Blessed are those who wash their robes so that they may have right to the tree of life, and that they may enter the city by the gates. Outside are the dogs and the sorcerers, the sexually immoral, the murderers and idolaters, and everyone who loves and practices falsehood. Again, a matter of blessing are those who keep, uphold, protect, do that are his, but a curse outside for those who did not. Right? So the word of Yahweh is important to follow, but it's important to follow as is. We need to make sure that when we're approaching the word of Yahweh, we are approaching this from a, how should I put this? A non-revised, abridged, edited for time, We need to make sure that what we're, and I know, guys, the best we have a lot of times is a translation, and there's only so much you can do with translations. I do believe the Father can work with us with what we have in our understanding, but we should also study to try to go back to find out really what is being said and implied so that we continue and learning in our study to find out what he really said. All right? If we got a question about it, we need to be able to go back and see. Okay? So a couple things along that line. The word is important to follow as is. Deuteronomy 12:8 says, you shall not do according to all that we're doing here today, which is what? Everyone doing what's right in his own eyes. Judges 21:25, in those days there was no king in Israel, and what happened? Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Isn't it kind of funny? Moses says, you shall not do as this, and they did it. Kind of makes me think of that thing that was circulating after a while. I do not remember it. But it's like the Bible in like real quick form. In the beginning, God said, don't do the thing. And Adam, we did the thing, And it just went through all the scriptures that way. This is kind of, can you imagine Moshe? He's looking down. He's like, guys, I told you, Let's keep reading. Proverbs 14:12. There is a way that seems right to a man, but the end is the way of death. Proverbs 3:7. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahweh and turn from evil. Proverbs 12:15. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man what? Listens to advice. Numbers 15:37-41. What does it say there? Yahweh said, after they went into the promise and after they rebelled against him and disobeyed him and slandered the land, slandered the promise that God was bringing them to, after all of this, the entire nation of Israel lost heart and spoke, they're going to die in the wilderness. That's it. We're not going to make it into the land. We're going to die. And Yahweh says, as you desire it, so I will let you have. So you're going to die in the wilderness. Caleb and Joshua, they're going in. And then he gives them this. So I want you to do something for me. I want you to make tzitzit on the corners of your garments or on the edges of your garments to remind you, don't go doing what your heart and eyes and mind are telling you to do. Don't go whoring after all these other things, because you can be led astray by what you see, and just follow your heart. Oh boy, that'll get you in danger, won't it? So Yahweh said that he gave us the tzitzit. I got them. I swear, I got them. I'm wearing them. He gave us them so that we would learn and remind us, don't go chasing after these other things. Don't go straying away from what God said. Don't go following your heart, follow his. And that's a different way of life, right? Proverbs 16:2. All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but Yahweh weighs the spirit. Look at Proverbs 21:2. Every way of man is right in his own eyes, but Yahweh weighs the heart. So Yahweh weighs the spirit, Yahweh weighs the heart. Back in, or forward, depending on how you want to look at it, Revelation chapter 2, when the letter to the churches are being written, how many times is it said, I know your heart? None. None at all, ever. What does it say? I know your ways. See, and so again, we're not to be led by, because we often use that, yeah, but God knows my heart. Yeah, he knows you're trying to use that as an excuse to get out of what he said to do. So we've got to be careful and don't be led astray by what your heart is saying. The problem is your heart needs to be joined with his heart. And that's when you can follow your heart. Right? Let's keep going. Ecclesiastes 11, 9 and 10. Oh, this is great. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth. Let your heart cheer you all the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. See? That's it. Solomon said it right there. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, and whatever is joyful in my heart, I can do it. Right? Really? Or not? What does the next verse say? Yeah. What does the next verse say? Verse 10. Remove vexation from your heart, put away pain from your body, for youth and dawn are life and vanity. Ooh. Continue reading. Verse 9. There's more in verse 9. Let's read that. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart, in the sight of your own eyes. But know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. Then he says, remove vexation from your heart and put away pain from your body, for youth. Okay. So you get that? He's saying if this is how you're living, if this is the way you think about things, God's going to bring you under judgment for that. So we've got to learn, we need to learn his ways, to learn to walk in those ways. Then that will bring a path of life and a path of blessing and a path for us to walk in. Okay? Ecclesiastes 12:13. What does it say? The end of the matter, after all has been heard, fear God, keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Okay, so because we were given the word, we are also told to set it in place in the area where we dwell. When we're going into the land, when we're going into a place that is ours, we are to set the blessing in place. We are to set the word before us. One of the ways we can do this, of course, is with the mezuzah on the doors. Just like it says in the Shema, right? In Deuteronomy 6, or in Deuteronomy 11, and Numbers 15, to take the word, put it on your doorposts and on your gates. Why? As reminders that when you're going out, when you're coming in, everything revolves around Yahweh and his word. Reminders. We need these reminders, right? Well, Yahweh says, when you go into the land, I'm going to give you a great reminder. Something you can literally, physically see. So Deuteronomy 11:29. So when Yahweh your God brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of it, you shall set the blessing on Mount Gerizim, the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not beyond the Jordan, west of the road, going to the going down of the sun, in the land of the Canaanites who live in the Arava, opposite Gilgal? Take a left at the fork in the road, kind of thing. Where? By the oak of Moreh. This is interesting. We'll come back to Gerizim and Ebal. We're not going to talk a lot about it because we've talked about that many times before. Not really going a lot about that, but we do need to take a quick look at this. When Yahweh says, I'm giving you this land, was this something new? Was this something different? Or was this something that came before? It came before. Remember, Yahweh told Avraham at this time, that when you go into the land, you're going to go in, you're going to walk it, this land that you see, and I'm going to give this land to your descendants that are coming after you. Right? And so notice I put in here that they said this land near Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal is by the oak of Moreh. Okay. Genesis 12:6. Avram passed through the land to the place at Shechem by what? The oak of Moreh. It's interesting because Moreh means teacher. So the oak that is a teacher, a strong teacher, or Oak Elon. There's an area called Elon Moreh. It's a mountain. Let's keep reading. Genesis 12:6. So Avram passed through the land of the place of Shechem to the oak of Moreh at the time the Canaanites were in the land. Then Yahweh appeared to Avram and said to him, to your offspring I will give what? This land. So he built there an altar to Yahweh who had appeared to him. Interesting. So Avram built an altar by the oak of Moreh, by Elon Moreh, and Yahweh was telling Israel, when you go into the land, you're going to build an altar, and you're going to proclaim these blessings and these cursings, you're going to set it in place. So Joshua had an altar built there near Shechem, and there, because Shechem is down at the base of the two mountains, and so this is in the same area, in the same vicinity. Avram built an altar there, Joshua built an altar there, and it is both a place of promise, place of blessing, and a reminder that if you don't walk in it, what could happen? Right? So if you go to Elon Moreh, this is a map, Elon Moreh. If you look all the way to the right is Elon Moreh, straight across to the left is Har Ebal, Mount Ebal, and below that is Har Gerizim, Mount Gerizim. So what is right in between Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal today is called Nablus, but scripturally it's Shechem. So it's interesting, this view from Elon Moreh is overlooking Mount Gerizim, Mount Ebal, and Shechem. So when Yahweh spoke to Avram, and he says, this is the land that I am giving you, he was looking at the same spot that Joshua was to bring all Israel to declare these blessings and cursings. Wow. So how the scripture really is intertwined, isn't it? There's promise here and being fulfilled there. Right? So Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, you know the story, those of you who have heard it before. If you haven't, we'll just do this really quick. Both are in the territory of Ephraim, by the way, which is interesting to note as well. What tribe was Joshua? Ephraim. Okay, so both are in the territory of Ephraim, both from the same soil. They're right next to each other, which means they both get the same air, they both get the same pollen, and this teaches us that it is not necessarily our circumstances that show either blessing or cursing, but rather what we do with what we've been given. Do we live a life of blessing or do we live a life of cursing? Do we set the blessing before us and walk in that, or do we do the cursing? Because Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, Mount Gerizim, it's green, stuff grows on it. You know, there's wells there, there's vineyards there. Mount Ebal, it's dirt and rock. They're right next to each other, guys. So this is a reminder. They have the same soil, same air, same pollen, same stuff. Don't grow there. Grows there. It's what we do with what Yahweh's been giving us. The choices that we make, right? So if you haven't seen it, this is a picture of Shechem, Mount Ebal, and Mount Gerizim. And you can look and you can tell. Pretty amazing. So Deuteronomy 12:32. What does it say? It's math time. That's what it says, right? So everything that I command you, you shall be careful to do. You shall not what? Add or take from it. So if we add to the word, what are we doing? We're saying, well, God, I know this is what you said, but, I really think I can do something different. I can do something better. If we're taking away from it, we're saying, God, I don't believe what you said. I have a better idea than that. Either way, we're putting ourselves in a position of judging the word that Yahweh gave us, and we can do better. So again, he says that which I have given you, don't add to it and don't take away from it. And think all the way back to the garden, guys. What did Yahweh tell Adam? Of every tree that's producing fruit, right? Of every tree and all this fruit, you can eat of every tree. Just don't eat the fruit from that one. What did he do? So you don't add, you don't take away. And we think take away means to completely remove. So to take away means to remove it, right? Not necessarily. Because what does it say? Do not add or do not diminish is a better way to translate that. Diminish is the word gara, and diminish does not necessarily mean to take it away. It means to relax it a little bit. To see it as not as important. To make it just a little less than what it is. In other words, we're not holding it in the proper esteem. We're not viewing it as Yahweh said to view it. We're not keeping it as a central focus. We're saying, we don't have to worry about that. We're not holding it in a place of honor. We're not holding it in a place close to our heart. What did Yeshua say about that? Oh, back to Matthew 5:17 through 21, right? Where he says, I've not come to do away with the Torah or the prophets, not come to do away but fulfill. And then he goes on to talk about this, that those who teach and do will be called great in the kingdom. But those who do not do and teach others not to do will be called least in the kingdom. So in other words, those who diminish the Torah or the prophets will be called least in the kingdom. Do not add, don't diminish it. Again, we think to completely remove, I haven't removed the word. No, it's not just remove, guys. It's to view it even lighter than what it is, to put it in a place where it doesn't belong, to see it just a little smaller, just a little lower than where it should be. Luke 8:16. When you read this, if you go back in Luke 8, he talks about the parable of hearing the word, receiving the word, the different types of ground, where the seed. Notice it's not different types of seed, by the way. It's different types of ground, and the seed grows up, and then there are different circumstances that cause it to flourish and take root or not. Different things that are going on. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. Right after the parable of the hearing or receiving the word, the types of ground represented, and letting the word take hold or take root, with a good root system, letting it grow, what is said. Okay, so that's why I'm not going to go into all of that, because I want to talk about what happens after that. Okay? 8:16. No one after lighting a lamp covers it with a jar or puts it under a bed, but puts it on a stand so that those who enter may see the light. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor anything is secret that will not be made known and come to light. So take care then what? How you hear. Notice he's talking about let your light shine kind of a thing, right? No one lights a lamp and hides it and do all these things. So we think this is just a matter of doing an action, which it is, but then he says, so be careful how you hear. In other words, now back to what kind of ground are you? What kind of ground are you waiting to be? What kind of ground are you preparing yourself to be so that when this seed comes in, you hear it? You receive the word. Let it take a deep root and let it grow and flourish and produce good fruit. See, I set before you today a blessing and a curse. Hear it and receive it. So that's what he says, verse 18. Take care then how you hear. For to the one who has, more will be given. And from the one who has not, even what he thinks he has will be taken away. So be careful how you hear. And I'm going to add to that. I'm not adding to the word now. But I'm going to add to that what we've already been talking about. So be careful just as much how you see. Because it's a matter of something happens. Well, the way I see it, be careful. Because the way I see it needs to be the way he sees it. And if it's not, one of these need to change, and it ain't going to be him. So God is asking us in our life around us, see wherever we look. We have set before us blessing and curse. See, perceive.